In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
On November the 11th every year, people gather to remember those who have given their lives for the peace and freedom we enjoy today. Armistice Day, also known as Poppy Day, is an opportunity for nations to pause and reflect on the sacrifices made by our brave servicemen and women who have suffered or died in conflict. The poppy is a potent symbol of remembrance, originating from the flowers which grew in the aftermath of the destruction of Flanders fields in Belgium, the scene of some of the worst devastation of the First World War. The first Poppy Day was in 1921, and today people still wear poppies in remembrance, respect and support.
After the First World War, Earl Haig, who was the commander of British forces, dedicated the rest of his life to looking after disabled, wounded ex-servicemen and their families. In 1921, a French woman came over to London with some red paper poppies that she'd made in France and had been selling in France to raise money for disabled French ex-servicemen. And Earl Haig was immediately taken by this symbol, and he got one of his friends to set up a small factory above a shop with 6 disabled ex-servicemen making poppies and selling them to the public in November to raise money for service charities. And this proved incredibly popular very, very quickly. His wife, Lady Haig, decided she wanted to sell poppies in Scotland to raise money for Scottish ex-servicemen. So she set up her own factory in 1926 at the bottom of the Royal Mile, and in 2 years' time she had employed over 150 men, and she drove all around Scotland distributing these poppies herself and raising money for the Scottish poppy appeal. And even to this day our poppy is different to the English poppy.
A social enterprise is a business whose objectives are to help the local community, and any money that they make as profits that they give back to the local community, and not just for the shareholders of that business or the owners of that business.
You ought to make a poppy. The green stem goes in first, put the red part on, and then the black. That's your poppy. Pays very good. So I can take the wife out once a month now, you know. So it's very exciting. Thank you very much for talking to me. You're a lovely looking girl. What are you doing tonight?
The factory currently employs 34 men. All of them are ex-servicemen. We make around 5 million poppies a year, all made by hand. We believe that it's really, really important that the poppy is made by people who believe that the poppy is important, and that's why we don't outsource to China or to anywhere else. People who make the poppies here in the factory really care about what they do.
Here we are in the factory itself, and Jim is making the stick-on poppy. How many do you make a day, Jim?
Roughly about 2,000. For me it's rather therapeutic because I've got arthritis and it's quite bad, so this helps me. As you go round you'll find that most of the chaps are doing a job that suits their need.
If you talk to Jim you can be here all day. Hey,
Well,
Jim.
I'm selling a product here.
A
brand is all about how our attitudes and our feelings are towards a particular product or service. It starts off with a logo that's instantly recognisable, and then the advertising, the promotion, the packaging that goes alongside that all contributes to how we see that particular product, whether it's something that we find is appealing to us, or whether it's a particularly trendy brand or something like that. The Poppy itself is actually a great example of a brand because it's so instantly recognisable, but also conjures up really strong emotional feelings for people when they see it. In 2006, the Poppy Scotland brand was introduced for the first time. Up until that point, we'd been known as the Earl Haig Fund Scotland, and initially we kept that name underneath the Poppy Scotland brand, but more recently we've introduced Supporting Our Heroes, which we think better reflects the more modern image that we've got, given that we're all about remembrance, but we're importantly about raising as much money as possible to help ex-servicemen and women from current conflicts.
And over here, the oldest man in the factory, this is Peter. I'm not sure how old Peter is, about 83 or something.
67. Could have known this job was so good, I would have started when I was 15.
Fundraising is the way that charities make money to help the people that they serve. So for Poppy Scotland, that's veterans and their families. And fundraising is not money that charities might get from the government, but money raised from the general public and from companies and from other organisations like that. The Poppy Appeal is very, very important to Poppy Scotland, but it doesn't raise all the money that we need to help veterans and their families. So Poppy Scotland now fundraises 365 days a year, and we use a whole number of enterprising ways to raise the money that we need. For example, we run local support groups and communities who run little events for us. We run big events such as our Hearts and Heroes Challenge in the Borders. We also offer supporters the chance to perhaps leave us a legacy in their will. We also give supporters the chance to donate to us through regular giving, making a direct debit every month. And one of the other ways is that we send direct mailings out to supporters and ask them to support us through making a donation by the post.
And here we have the wreath department.
The hub of the factory.
Here we have the hub of the factory. This is Jerry. Jerry's the head wreath maker. He's the head boy. All these wreaths you see on this board here are all handmade from scratch.
Over the year we make 10,000 wreaths a year. It's non-stop all the way through, because the wreaths go out all at different times, not just for Remembrance Day, but all the time.
And you enjoy what you do?
No, I do.
I like to think Poppy Scotland's run by a mix of efficiency and effectiveness. And that really involves two strands of activity. The first is raising money, getting people to give money to the charity, whether it's through the Poppy Appeal or through year-round donations and supportive events and the like. And the other strand is by actually using the money efficiently and effectively. So we're trying to achieve a balance the whole time in getting income, making best use of it in the interest of the people we try to help. I think the most important thing a young person can bring to any organisation is enthusiasm. I think a understanding and a sympathy for other human beings, which tends to be a bit more acute when you're younger. People are more idealistic when they're younger, and that's a great thing to bring to any charity. And I think also to have the sort of educational skills that mean you can turn your hand to a good number of tasks. So to be numerate, to be able to work with figures to a reasonable level, and to maybe have some understanding of how an office runs, of basic administration and organisation, because that can be applied to all sorts of different functions and activities, and young people can acquire knowledge and skills that help them expand what they can do with that.
Working in fundraising is a career nowadays. I think in the past people have thought that if you work for a charity you must be volunteer, that you couldn't possibly get paid to do the work, but absolutely it's a full-time career, and it's a very rewarding job.
And as you open the door, you'll see why we call it a tin room. As you can see, all the tins. After November, the empty tins come back here, about 22,000 of them. They're all washed and new string and new label put on. They also do, we call a long stem poppy, and they do about 18,000 of these. But one of their most important jobs is dispatch. All the orders for remembrance come here for the whole of Scotland. And these three gentlemen here make up the orders. And here we have John, Chris and Harry.
John reckons he's the best in the town. Chris reckons he's been the oldest, so he reckons he's the best. But me, I'm only a young one.
Volunteering is the act of giving your free time or your skills to a charity or organisation. We have thousands of volunteers at Poppy Scotland, and we literally couldn't operate as a charity without them. If we were to multiply how many hours volunteers did for us every year and add into that a salary, then we wouldn't be able to function. We simply wouldn't make enough money.
Funding doesn't come out of the air. It requires volunteers to tap the sources of the coinage that fills our collection tins.
I think it'd be important for people to volunteer for Poppy Scotland because they're not only helping people who have been affected by the wars, but people who are being affected by the wars. And I think it's important to acknowledge these people for things they're doing for us.
It's an obligation I feel I have to help those who survived, but not completely.
It's the joy and satisfaction it gives me. Surely, you know, for what our boys and girls did to protect our country, that's at least we can do for them.
It's fulfilling this sense of obligation we have, that we feel we ought to be doing something, giving something back.
I get the satisfaction of knowing that I'm encouraging people to give to Poppy Scotland.
We should acknowledge the people who have lost their lives in wars before, and I think it's easy to forget them since it was a long time ago, but I think it's important to remember them and remember the good that they did for the country.
Royal British Legion Scotland is a membership organisation which is fundamentally a charity, and it looks after the welfare, the benevolence and the remembrance of ex-service people. And as long as there are people who are ex-servicemen and those in need, this organisation will be around. We have a very close working relationship with Poppy Scotland and the Poppy Appeal. It's one of our biggest events throughout the year, and on average the 50,000 members will collect almost a third of the amount of funds that goes towards those in need.
Some people might do 3,000 a day, some people might do 1,000. It all depends on disability, and there's no pressure to do more. You know, you do your best in the factory, and that's all we ask.
Yeah, it's nice working here. It's very warm in the factory and the pay is very good. Yeah, it's good money for old poppies, that's it. I'll get called the gas man. Here's one I made earlier. Just like making toasties.
Each year, Poppy Scotland raises almost £2 million through the sale of 5 million poppies to the Scottish public. This event, known as the Scottish Poppy Appeal, is held each November, with many other fundraising activities held throughout the year. All the money raised in Scotland is spent giving financial assistance, advice and support to those veterans and their families who are in particular need. Poppy Scotland also provides significant financial support to other organisations that deliver specialist services to veterans in Scotland, such as those who are disabled. Buying a poppy is an act of remembrance and respect for all those who served in the armed forces from the First World War to those still serving today.